Good morning.
Good morning.
Open with because we want to be open to the Holy leading us. We are a community that has centered creativity in our life together. We are living in a time when we need creativity to survive and thrive and to help others survive and thrive. Today we continue a series informed by the Artist Way, a course in recovering our inner artists and a spiritual path to higher creativity. This week, we hold the scripture from 2 Corinthians in conversation with the chapter and theme of rediscovering a sense of abundance. So, when I was pulling up today, coming down 46, coming up to Blaisdell, I thought, you know what I wrote here actually happened. The reason I'm standing here this morning is I was sitting out there on the table with Michelle and Maris, and they were talking about what's going to happen on this Sunday. There was supposed to be some artist thing or whatever, I'm not sure, whatever. And I was listening to them talk, and I'm like, they're trying to figure out, well, maybe somebody can preach or, whatever. And I'm like, you know what? There's no way I can facilitate an art group. You just don't want that to happen, but I can do a message. So here I am. So then when I finally Michelle gave me the scriptures for today, and I looked at it, and I went, oh crap, I'm talking about giving. Then I thought to myself, redirected my thoughts a little bit and said, I can do this. So then I started thinking on how I can talk and tie into scripture about giving and abundance without a guilt trip. I don't know about any of y'all, but my experience with more traditional Christian teaching is a lot of the times you get the abundance and the guilt trip and it all goes together. So now I'm trying to figure out how I can do this. So I've read the first two scriptures, and then I read the chapter 6 from the Artist Way, and I began to thinking of how I can tie Paul's message from a different perspective, or as we say here at Spirit Garage, a different lens. So, what does recovering a sense of abundance really mean? So, I went to Merriam-Webster and looked it up. So the word recovering in this case, because there's lots of different definitions, I feel means return to a normal health, mind, or strength. The word sense in this case could be a conscious awareness. And finally, abundance means a relative degree of plentifulness. So if you put those together, what I came up with is a conscious awareness of returning to a degree of abundance. So I have a question for you. Just think about it. So what is your image or understanding of abundance? Everyone here probably has a different answer to this, which is great because we're all unique, creative, and yes, this is a word, quirkiness. I have one more question. Where did the abundance come from? And this is something I'll get into just in a little bit later, but I just want you to think about it for a minute. So in today's scripture, Paul is using the Macedonians as an example of what can happen when individuals come together for a common cause and give at least part of the abundance that God has given them. The abundance may have been monetary, but it also have been using creative skills to improve the community. This happens at Spirit Garage on a regular basis. Yes, there are people who give very generously financially to support the weekly operations and monthly of what Spirit Garage does. Without financials, this wouldn't be happening. We wouldn't be able to support all the different causes and whatnot that Spirit Garage supports. But yet, there's also people who give of their time, and some people do give both every Sunday morning so this can happen. Just like it may take a village to raise a child, it takes a village for a church to make worship happen and support the programs in the community. I'd love to just name off, I can look at the room, all the different things that people do in this room. Too many, not enough time, but without everybody here, this would not be happening. So let's look at Julia Cameron, what she said in The Artist's Way. She does have some very creative and thought-provoking ideas about what abundance means. She challenges the reader to look at abundance, what abundance means in their lives, and gives unique ideas of what abundance possibly means. So the first concept in this chapter that she looks at is the Creator. So what are your expectations of your Creator, and what do you consider abundance to be? I'll ask a lot of questions today. Also, is your security focused on money, or is your focus on dependence on God? So Julia talked about how we might want God to look when it comes to abundance. She's got this phrase in here, and I just loved it. It said, sometimes we feel that feels like a fat paycheck. That God, when I read this, I just got this picture in my head of God, a traditional picture of God sitting on his big old throne, and excuse the pronoun here, but he's on his throne with a rubber stamp and a big old checkbook just rubber stamping on the signature line, God. And then it's getting ready to go into direct deposit. And then we can just use that money any way we want, however we feel like it. But that's not how it works. God has given us each different talents and creative abilities, so we all create in our own way. It's like a big collage that everyone contributes to make one big, beautiful picture. An example that I thought of and how this all might work is an example of the food that we buy. So first, we need the person with the green thumb that can plant the seeds and nourish them to make the plants grow. And of course, then they need to be harvested. Once it's harvested, we need some people who are creative as far as organizing and getting the food transported from the farm to the store. Yes, this is creative, trying to figure that out. Go ahead, with all the construction, drive down 494, 94, 35W. You all know that this takes a creativity to get from point A to point B. So once the produce arrives to the market, now you need a person with a talent that has the eye for displaying the produce. It has to be a certain category, matte colors organized in a certain way, shapes, refrigerated, non-refrigerated, the whole 9 yards. Next, so now you got people coming, they buy the produce. The next thing is you get the food home and you're like, okay, how do I prepare it? So now you need the creative person who's like, oh yeah, you put this spices with this, you cook it with this, and they create a recipe. So now you have a recipe to follow. Then next you have to have the person who's creative actually following the recipe and making that meal. Then you just need the people to eat it. And what happens is you have something that not only you need the nourishment and the food that you bought from the store, but you also have something that you want, something tasty. So another concept that Julia talks about in her book is luxury, living the lavish lifestyle. So my mind this time went straight to a big house, swimming pools, nice cars with all the latest gadgets, and let's throw in a housekeeper, cook, and groundskeeper. But I think that Julia Cameron has challenged that image in her book. she talks about one of the definition that she talks about is something adding to pleasure or comfort, but not absolutely necessary. So for me, one example of luxury is getting up in the morning, making my cup of tea, sitting in my favorite chair, and be able to drink that cup of tea. Having just that little bit of time to do that without, okay, I make my tea, now I'm running from room to room, getting ready for work, and I'm not enjoying the tea. I'm just consuming the caffeine. So to me, that's a luxury to be able to just sit in my favorite chair and drink my tea. There's other ways for luxury, and Julia talks about this in the book also, on different ways people might consider luxury. One is to learn a new instrument or be creative as far as doing a painting, knitting. There's just so many different ways that could be a luxury, but it's all personal. There is a second scripture assigned for today, and it's from John 13:31 through 35. I'm just going to paraphrase it for you. So in this verse, Jesus is with his disciples. He's enjoying the meal. It's shortly before his crucifixion. But unknowingly to the disciples, Jesus is giving them final instructions. Jesus tells his disciples to treat others as I have treated you, because this is how the world will know you are my followers. To me, Jesus is challenging his disciples to teach by action, to allow the world to observe, practice, and imitate the disciples' actions. Now, this brings us back full circle to what Paul was, when he was using the Macedonians as example of what happens when creative people work together to create an abundance. This example shows how the people in the community treated those in need in a way that Jesus would have treated them. I have one final question for you. What do you create to bring abundance to your life and the community around you?